Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify. Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify. Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify. Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify. Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify. Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify. Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify. Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify. Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify. Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify.
Good morning, the time being 9 a.m. I declare open the general meeting for the Gladstone Regional Council for the 15th of September 2020. There being no apologies, I'll move to the next item on the agenda, which is messages of condolence. Councillors, are there any messages of condolence? No messages of condolence. I'll move to the next item on the agenda, which is prior notifications of MPIs or conflicts of interest, and I don't have any registered. Is that correct, Tanya? Councillors, have anyone like to table any now?
Mr Mayor, my only slight problem is that it is mentioned in, I'm not sure of the item, where we're dealing with some funding regarding the Gladstone Community Linking Agency. It's not up for any funding. It already has got the funding. So I just want to make sure I'm all right with that.
Tanya?
That should be fine. I believe the report you're referring to is primarily about BMX, and that's mentioned as a secondary issue.
It is, thank you.
Oh, yeah, okay, that's fine. Yep, that's the Ignite event out of round 3.6, which is specifically one.
Yes, sorry, Mr Mayor.
No worries. Okay, there being no other MPIs or conflicts of interest, I'll move to the next item on the agenda, which is G1, the Mayor's statement on current issues. And firstly, I'd like to start by thanking His Excellency, the Honourable Paul de Jersey, Governor of Queensland, and Mrs de Jersey for visiting the Gladstone region last week and hosting Regional Government House here in Gladstone. Based here from Monday through to Thursday was fantastic for our region, and I know our local business operators and a lot of community groups and schools and others particularly enjoyed the visit from the Governor as well. He also attended the South Gladstone Rotary Club's 50th anniversary dinner. I acknowledge Councillor Cameron in the room today as well, a member of that Rotary Club, and what a fantastic job they've done over the last 50 years. But having the Governor here for Regional Government House, I think it's the 6th Regional Government House they've hosted since they've started them, and it's fantastic to see them bringing Regional Government House obviously to regional areas. And it was a question we asked of the Governor a few years ago, and it's glad to see they honoured that request and came to Gladstone, and I'm sure the school kids particularly enjoyed their visit as well. I also like to give a shout out to our team here at the GECC for the drive-in movies on the weekend. I believe they were sold out on the night times and very close to sell out during the matinees. That's something obviously the team were planning to do anyway, and COVID came along, and what more COVID safe event could you have than a drive-in movie with your family in your own family car? So very good for them thinking outside the box and putting those together. We have Symphony Under the Stars. It's another free event which is going to be hosted here in the Gladstone region. We're welcoming them back this year on the 24th and 25th of September. Now, it is a free event, but because of COVID concerns, it will be ticketed so that the number of people can be limited and we can fit within a COVID-safe plan. So there'll be 600 free tickets available on the GECC website. So if you're interested in going to one of the 2 nights for Symphony Under the Stars, make sure you get on the GECC website and have a look for some tickets. It's titled Real Classics, and they'll be playing theme songs from movies like Harry Potter, Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, E.T. and those sorts of things. So I'm sure it'll be a great family night out. Also, congratulations to the Little Athletics Club from Agnes Water, hosted a regional carnival on the weekend. That's not just their own Agnes Water 1770 Little Athletes. It's a regional carnival. There was Bundaberg, Bargara, there was North Rockhampton, Billawheeler and Mara. So for that small athletics team to put that together, a regional event in these certain conditions is a huge effort, and I want to shout out to the committee for putting that on. It certainly, if you're in Agnes on the weekend, and I was there in the morning, on the Saturday morning, it was absolutely chockers. I know that people are interested in the real estate market there, and certainly great weather in Agnes and a fantastic beach, but having the carnivals and things like that are certainly bringing people back. Another event that'll do the same will be our Cultural Immersions Festival, which is happening on October 3 in 1770 as well. And just around the corner in the Baffle Creek area, we have the Baffle Creek Family Fishing Festival from the 21st to the 26th of September. So September's going to be a busy month in our community, and that's just a few off the top of my head, but the Family Fishing Day will actually be the 26th. So if you'd like to catch some fish, Councillor Branthwaite, I'm sure you'll be able to wet a line in Baffle Creek on the weekend of the September 26th. And that's it from the Mayor's statement on current issues at the moment. I'll move to the next item on the agenda.
Mayor Matt, before you move on, could I just make a brief comment with your permission?
Absolutely.
I'd like to, on behalf of my fellow councillors in the community, acknowledge your tireless efforts during the visit by the Governor. You had to be here, there and everywhere, and as you are required to as the Mayor, and I just wanted to perhaps with indulgence of my fellow councillors, but more so the community, we acknowledge your efforts tirelessly 24/7. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Churchill. It was my honour to be representing our community with the Governor, but thank you for that. Next item on the agenda is the confirmation of the minutes, and G2.1 is the confirmation of the general meeting minutes for the 1st of September. Have a mover, please. Thank you, Councillor Branthwaite. Seconded, Councillor Cameron. Is there any corrections or no? All true and correct? All in favour? That's carried. The next item on the agenda is the officers' reports, and G3.0 is the monthly financial report for the period ending the 25th of August 2020. And I'll hand over to the General Manager of Finance, Governance and Risk, Mark Holmes. Thank you, Mark.
Morning, Mr Mayor. Morning, councillors. Yeah, so attached is your monthly financial report through to the end of August, and presents an update just showing you how we're performing year to date. The results are pretty much in line and as expected with the prior financial year, and particularly I want to just draw your focus to the ratios. They really give you that overall summary and picture, and compare to where we actually sat. So this current reporting period at the end of August to the same time last year, and you'll see that they are very similar in terms of all those metrics with respect to everything from our operating surplus to our working capital to our cash expenses cover. With our capital expenditure reporting, our forecast at the moment is to be slightly ahead of that 64.8, but still tracking probably behind on a pro rata basis there at $4.9 million through to the end of August, recognising some accruals to take it up to that. With respect to outstanding rates, so this isn't your rates that are currently out in the community that are not yet due, and they won't be due until the middle of October. These are the rates with respect to the previous year. We're sitting at 5.9% of those still sitting as outstanding, and that is slightly higher than the same time last year, which was 5.63. But that is something that we will continue to monitor. And because I think this is an area that as the community recovers during this COVID period, we just need, it's something that we really do need to be mindful of, and that's essentially why we'll be looking at increasing the reporting in the space, particularly around those outstanding rates, to keep an eye on trends and to make sure that we're engaging, particularly with those residents who are struggling. We certainly make sure that our team, both our customer solutions team and our rates team, will make sure they're having those conversations and make sure that we're putting in place payment arrangements where we need to do so. But happy to take questions.
Thank you, Mark. Questions to General Manager, please? No questions. Can I have a mover of Officer's recommendation? Councillor Goodluck, seconded Councillor Hanson. All in favour? That's carried. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the representation on the Local Authorities Waste Management Advisory Committee, LAWMAC. I think that's how it is. And I hand over to the Manager of Governance. Thank you, Tanya.
Good morning, councillors. This report asks Council to consider becoming a member of the Local Authorities Waste Management Advisory Committee, otherwise known as LAWMAC, as well as appointing a councillor representative to that committee. The councillor will hold voting rights. LAWMAC is a subcommittee of the Northern Alliance of Council and has the following objectives: to achieve sustainable use of resources through continuous improvement of waste management practices by regional cooperation, to facilitate positive environmental change, to collaborate and develop partnerships in the implementation of sustainable waste management solutions, to advocate and influence environmental policy and waste management industry practices at all levels of government and industry, and to continue to enhance and develop the professionalism of LAWMAC. Councillor Hanson attended the last LAWMAC committee meeting, and he may wish to speak to that.
Yes, thank you, Tanya. I attended with our new waste manager, Shane Anderson, who is very experienced in waste systems throughout Queensland and New South Wales, and will be a very good advocate for us here in town. LAWMAC meets 3 times a year. I think you probably said that. Participating councils are from Central Queensland, North Queensland and Far North Queensland. I think it's very, very similar to the old CQ Waste Management, which was lost with the demise of the Central Queensland Local Government Association in 2013. We were sort of kicking some goals at those days, and I think we've been marking time a little bit since then, particularly with waste education. I think there is opportunity to partner with other local government areas in this region to bump up that, particularly waste education, when we see a lot of things like illegal dumping at the moment being prevalent. We mentioned the objectives of the group. All I can do from here is recommend that it would be in our best interests to be a member of the group and to attend their meetings, for us to be kept up to date on the best industry standards. And this would certainly assist us in fostering future partnerships with other regional councils and in implementing our own waste management strategy moving forward. So I recommend it to you.
Thanks, Councillor Hanson. Councillor Churchill.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Matt. I'd like to actually move the motion that, and I'm sure each and every one of us as elected members are wanting to be at the forefront of the waste management aspects and obviously the new innovative ways. And I concur with Councillor Hanson in his comments. I go one step further to strengthen his comments, is that we'd like to think that perhaps all of local governments in Central Queensland could be proactive and become members of this Local Authority Waste Management Advisory Committee. And I'd also at this particular time like to move in my resolution that we do appoint Councillor Rick Hanson on the Local Authorities Waste Management Advisory Committee. And I'd like to reserve my comments as such if there's other nominations coming forward, but I believe that Councillor Rick Hanson has been at the forefront in many different ways in relation to not only waste management, but the innovative ideas that are coming forward in relation to what the Gladstone Regional Council has been doing on behalf of its ratepayers to determine new energy ideas and new innovative ways for waste management. But I'd like to move that recommendation in front of us and to, in dot point number 2, that Council appoint Councillor Rick Hanson. And I'll reserve the right to respond to that if there's any other nominations forthcoming.
Thank you. Seconder for that, please. Thank you, Councillor Branthwaite. Is there any other nominations for that role?
Does that include our waste manager as well? In that?
Dot point 3 clearly articulates in the resolution that the Chief Executive Officer will appoint that officer representative. I would imagine that would be the case, but I don't think it's about appointing the individual. I think it's about appointing the appropriate role, but I'm sure Madam CEO could comment on that.
No problems, Councillor.
Certainly we have had some preliminary discussions. The structure of our council is not a traditional council structure, as councillors are aware, and it probably makes sense to have a couple of officer representatives to cover the strategy element as well as the operation of the facility. So we have had some preliminary discussions, but pending council's resolution today will then make those decisions.
So then point 3, I was wordsmithing, but it says authorise the Chief Executive Officer to appoint an officer. So do we need to reword that if you're going to appoint 2? To appoint officers or appropriate officers? Appropriate, yeah.
Mr Mayor, I'm prepared to just amend dot point 3 so that it actually says authorise the Chief Executive Officer to appoint officer/officers rather than representative.
Thank you.
And that can be a determination depending on what the agenda items are.
Yeah. And that's very good. Thank you. Councillor who's second to the Councillor Branthwaite, you happy with that amendment? Any other nominations for that role? I think you fit that role.
Sorry, Mr Mayor. I actually sat in on the meeting with Councillor Hanson and across that, the Skype meeting that we did have. Yeah, it was a fantastic meeting, and a lot of collaboration was going on then, and you know, it's quite appropriate that Councillor Hanson actually takes that office. I just wonder, excuse me, just wonder at times that, you know, it'd be nice to have a proxy for that role if Councillor Hanson wasn't available, and I would certainly put my hand up for that if that opportunity was there.
Tanya, is proxy available?
I would have to take that question on notice, but it's likely that Councillor Hanson would have the ability to nominate a proxy if needed.
Need a formal resolution for a proxy?
I don't believe so.
Well, noted. Councillor Branthwaite would like to be a proxy if you need one.
Well noted.
Thank you.
I'm happy to leave my resolution as it stands at the moment. We leave it at the discretion of Councillor Hanson.
Thank you. Okay, we have a move, we have a second. There's no further conversation or debate. I'll put the motion. All in favour? That is carried. Thank you. Congratulations and thank you, Councillor Hanson. The next item on the agenda is G3.3, which is Gladstone Region Economic Development Strategy Working Group Councillor representation. Back to you, Tanya, and I know we have Gary and Carly here as well.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. The report is seeking a councillor to be appointed to the Economic Development Strategy Working Group, and I might throw it to Gary to provide some background if you'd like. Or Carly.
Thank you. So the economic development strategy is an external facing strategy. So we do think it's important that we have a representative. Looks like the battery got us on that one. So we do think it's important that we have a wide range of people from right across our business, but also we have that expertise and knowledge from our councillor group and representatives of the community. So this report is looking for a representative on that committee. The next meeting is on the 30th of September. They also meet on the last Wednesday of every month, and there'll be other various meetings, but it should be all wrapped up and finished within 6 months.
Fantastic, thanks, Carly. I believe there'll probably be a lot of interest in this, I'm hoping. I would be hoping one of the councillors. I won't be putting my hand up to be on this. I've got enough going on, and I'm sure whoever the councillor is will be able to report back to council on what's happening, and I get regular briefings from Carly and Gary in this area. So, councillors, could you please indicate your willingness to be involved? Councillor Goodluck.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've got a different point of view I'd just like to put to council for consideration. I fully appreciate the intent of the report, and thank you, Carly and team. But for me, the economic development strategy is a very important piece of work, and it's something that, as we have done even in recent weeks, have all been involved in and will continue to all be involved in. I don't actually think that we should have a single councillor appointed to this committee. I think there are differing views, as everyone would expect, for each and every individual councillor sitting around the table, and I think we get the best value when we're having that discussion collaboratively as a council, rather than having a single appointed councillor to this committee, which might, certainly I'm passionate about what I think of economic development. If I was to be appointed, I'd certainly do my best to take into consideration the differing views around the table, but my own personal views are probably going to come to the forefront more often than not, and I don't expect that there would be any difference for any other councillor sitting around the table. So, and it also represents a slight risk, despite I'm sure what our best intentions would be, that other councillors, by appointing a single councillor onto this committee, other councillors might not have as much involvement. So I would like to see this committee move forward with comprehensive and collaborative, working meetings and groups with the entire council, rather than appoint one councillor to this committee. That's just my personal view. Thank you.
Thank you, and can I come back to you, Carly? Just we're here for Councillor Muscat and then Councillor Churchill, and then I'll come back.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I actually have a similar opinion to what Councillor Goodluck has just said. I guess obviously I'm also interested. I put my hand up just then, and I can give you a number of reasons why I'm interested and why I think I should be the one appointed to this committee. But I also think that there's a lost opportunity there for all of us to be involved. I think we all have very strong opinions, and they all need to be considered, and I know they are, but it's just there is that possibility that there will be, allow the voice within the separate committee if we only appoint one or even two councillors. I have my own opinions, and they might be different to people across the other side of the table, but I want, they're equally representing people in our region, so we need to have all those voices heard, and I don't see why we couldn't collaborate with the working group in a different manner. It's only going to be 6 months, and we can work out other ways to consult with each other, and to keep up, with the developments of the strategy. So.
Thanks, Councillor Muscat. I'll throw to Councillor Churchill, and then I'll come back to Carly, and then Councillor Hanson and whoever else after that.
Yeah, thanks very much for that, Mayor Matt. I suppose in the circumstance I try and speak with some pearls of wisdom, and I totally agree with Councillor Goodluck's comments, edified by Councillor Muscat. In my experience in the past, when I was Chair of the Gladstone Region Economic Development, past Director of GEIDB, a member of EDA, and this is not about self-edification, this is substantiating the inaugural Chair of the Cruise Liner Working Group and the Queensland Economic Development Conference. And we did an economic development summit here in Gladstone, and we had over 220 delegates. And we asked those 220 delegates what they thought economic development was, and our response was nearly 170 different opinions. So I'm saying this on the basis of providing first-hand I suppose experience becomes wisdom, is that it's evidence to substantiate where Councillor Goodluck's coming from. I think the challenge we've got is from this committee is trying to ensure that those huge plethora of opinions that we're going to have in the future of Gladstone Region for economic development based on economic, social, community, and the list goes on, is to bring forth something collectively for all the elected members to be able to consider. So I'm simply saying that as a substantiation that because there are so many different opinions, I believe that each and every one of the elected members should have a say in what is developed in the economic development strategy. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Churchill. I'll go back to you, Carly, if that's right, then throw to Councillor Hanson.
Yeah. Completely understand what everyone's saying. I just wanted to reinforce that this group as a whole is a major stakeholder on the project. We've had the one stakeholder engagement session so far. We've now then got the individual sessions. There's another stakeholder engagement session part way through and then towards the end. So this group is an active stakeholder as a group. So there'll be plenty of opportunity for you to have that voice. It's obviously up to you if you want to allocate someone to the committee. The role on the committee is more about making sure that we are opening all the doors, we are looking at all the avenues, and we're listening to all of the opinions of the community. Doesn't necessarily mean that one voice on the committee will steer it. We have a highly experienced consultant who's driving the project, and their role is to make sure that we get all voices of the community and come up with the best opportunities for our region moving forward.
Thank you. Councillor Hanson.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. We've had many ups and downs in the last few years regarding economic development, as we all would attest to. I don't always agree with Councillor Goodluck, but this time I think his statement was pretty good, and I think that's the way we should move. Entrust our officers to move the direction of the economic development plans going forward, and to make sure that they're kept in contact with us, which I'm sure Carly just said would happen. So I agree, Councillor.
Councillors, other councillors' opinion? So Councillor Cameron?
Yeah, Carly, with the working group after the 6 months, is that the end of the working group, or will it keep on going in some form?
That's currently the end of the group. If the strategy just indicates that a group is required to move forward, then potentially that might be considered, but currently there's no plans to. At
this time? No, just my comment was that a councillor appointed to a working group, if it's going to be ongoing, at that point probably would be more appropriate than right now, because I do agree with Councillor Goodluck in the fact that we are having one-on-one sessions with the consultant and whatever comes out of that will start to form the strategy, and maybe representation after that might be more appropriate.
Well, there seems to be a trend. I was quite happy for a councillor to represent us on that, but I hear what the councillor saying. I have more confidence that you would be able to be able to drive your own agenda, but also the councillors' agenda on that committee, but I'm quite happy for it to come back here. I just think it wouldn't probably hurt to have a councillor sitting in that room, but that's okay. I'm hearing the majority. Councillor O'Grady, Branthwaite or Trevor, you'd like to add anything, or should we just be looking for a mover?
Unless you would like us to nominate you.
No, I'm busy enough. Thank you very much.
I did know. I actually agree with. My opinion was at the start was to have at least one representative on there, listening with the ears, but Councillor Goodluck brought up a very good point. My agenda is totally different to yours, and to yours, and to yours, and it'd be nice to have all those voices around that table. You know, I think at the end of the day, the people that end up on the economic development group will have 100% input into their own agenda and have the community at heart anyway. And we must install a lot of faith in that process. And it'd be nice to see the reports come back here and us collaborate and add to that. So I'm actually, I've changed my opinion. And thanks, Councillor. Good luck.
Yeah, fair enough. You've probably changed my opinion too. All right, can I have a mover then? Thank you. Well, straight move. It was your motion, so I'll let you move it. Move, Councillor Goodluck. Seconded, Councillor Hanson. That there be no councillor representation on that committee. However, where I'd like it reinforced, continual and constant updating with the full council group. All right, thank you. All in favour? That's carried. The next item on the agenda is G3.4, which is the Principal Cycle Network Plan, Priority Route Maps Update. Thank you to Anna, the General Manager of Strategic Asset Performance. Thank you.
So this report is administrative in nature. The state government is seeking council's endorsement of the priority route maps 14 to 19 for inclusion in the Department of Transport and Main Roads 2020 Principal Cycle Network Plan. I have Salisa and Phil online if there are any questions about the maps themselves or the higher level plans.
Thanks. Anna, questions to General Manager or to the officers? No. Might be an easy one. Councillor Churchill.
Well, no, I don't have any high-level questions. I've got a low-level question, but I can, if you wouldn't mind me asking that.
Fire away.
It's just that Harvey Road, and I was trying to find it on the map there. We've done a lot of work there in recent times outside the Clinton State School, so perhaps if you could just take it on notice, trying to work out with the amount of increased activity that's occurring. And I understand the intent of the cycle network is to get people safely from one to the next, and hopefully at the end of the day, the long-term plan is that we're completely connected. I get that. But where we have an area where there has been an increase in traffic, where there has been an increase or by virtue of the infrastructure that we create during the plan or the program that encourages rather than forces, but that's what we try to do. We try to encourage them to take a corridor. Is there any intent to continue that cycle network or that bike pathway through to Kirkwood Road?
I might have to see if Phil or Salisa can answer that question now. If not, we'll have to take it on notice.
Yeah, good morning, councillors. It's Salisa here. In one of the maps, it does, the Gladstone map, it does show Harvey Road as a priority A route. And it is on there that goes from Dawson Highway through to Kirkwood Road. So it certainly is in the plan. And our council pedestrian and cycle network plan that aligns with this DTMR mapping does have it in there. So it certainly is the intention to carry it all the way through.
Yeah, thank you for that. I do appreciate that. So that adds, I suppose, the addendum question is that as we adopt these plans A, B, C, D in their priority, are the plans fluid enough or flexible enough to be amended if we see an area that actually creates a development that's currently not there? So if there's a development that comes along sometime, be it as we adopt these plans sometime in the next 2 to 5 years, do we then increase our efforts in those areas if for a development that's perhaps unknown on our current planning scheme?
Yes, so the maps do get reviewed. I believe it's on a 2-year cycle. So as things change, they can be changed as well. And the council also does their own planning work as well around all of our transport needs. And as those plans get updated, we can then use those to refer back into the state government. These plans are really around, once they're endorsed, they just help and assist when we obtaining funding from the state government. So that doesn't preclude us from going off on a tangent and paying for our own additional networks as well.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that.
Councillor Branthwaite, any other ones?
Thank you, Mayor Matt. Just a comment or a question in the passage there concerning background. It says installing cycling infrastructure on and off road. What are you? Just sorry, pardon my ignorance, but what are you actually meaning by that?
So in some cases where we've got the ability and there's a safety requirement, we can actually put essentially a wider footpath off the road is what they consider to be an off-road one. So it can be a dual pedestrian cycle way, or it can be a dedicated path off the road itself.
Oh, so you're not talking cycle racks and all that sort of thing?
No, it's typically the pathways. And then on-road is generally where it's line marked and painted in some instances as well.
Like we see on Kirkwood Road.
Yeah, we've just recently done some work there.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Muscat, and are you ready with you after as well? Yep.
Thank you. Thanks, Anna. I just wanted to I guess confirm further on what Councillor Churchill was talking about, and for everyone listening to, like, these plans don't mean that other things can't be done. So it's about the things that we are prioritising. So when we go and look for extra funds to build any of these, the things that are in these plans are higher in the priority list, sort of thing. It doesn't mean that we can't, if we find the need or you know, community needs arise or development arises, then that we can't act on that. So just I wanted to ask you, I note the 2 years review in here, and it talks about having had community feedback in setting the priorities and the routes. So is there any plans of doing any other kind of exercise around community feedback or community consultation going forward?
My understanding is when council did their planning work previously, it was very interactive, and the community were heavily consulted with to inform where our principal cycle networks needed to be. These particular priority route maps too, they're around more the commuter type, the transport type related ones, as opposed to recreational. So you may have other recreational paths totally separate to this particular plan as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, still, so you're saying that we might not get any extra feedback from any of the users of these areas, or we don't have any plans to do that?
So currently we get feedback through our normal channels.
Okay.
And when we do go and do our actual modelling and our planning work, that's when we'll go out with a concerted effort to understand what the community's needs are and their requirements are, and where their preferred travel routes are for the cycleway network. And that's what happened when we put together our previous plan.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor O'Grady.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Mine was actually around similar about engagement with the schools and the bicycle groups around our community. But for the reason being, I know I've just in the last week or two I have ridden like my nieces and nephews to school at Agnes Waters. There's some very unsafe spots which I've actually taken photos and I haven't done a CSR. Sorry?
No, I couldn't hear you away from the microphone.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, so like I haven't done a CSR yet, but there are some unsafe spots along the cycleways. So obviously they're going to be identified as they go, as this all happens. I was just wondering how could we be engaged, maybe even as councillors that do cycle a fair bit.
So when we do our next round of planning, we'll put together a community engagement strategy to make sure that we are effectively engaging with the community, because these transport networks, and particularly the cycleway networks, it is around what the community actually needs and wants. So we definitely do have the intention of going out and engaging with the community and understanding. So my understanding of the way in which the previous consultation worked, where people were able to use interactive maps and drop pins onto the maps to indicate where they actually cycled to and from and what their purposes are for cycling as well. So it was fairly in-depth community consultation, and I can't imagine that the next round will be anything less.
Okay, thank you. I just want to say thank you, and I think that's very ambitious to get that done in the next, the green ones in the next 10 years, so good luck. That'll be fantastic if we can achieve that. But even if we can achieve 80% of it, I think we're doing very well. Certainly come a long way since our first cycleway went in, which wasn't that long ago. Do I have a mover for the officer's recommendation, please? Thank you, Councillor Muscat. Second, Councillor O'Grady. All in favour? That's carried. The next item on the agenda is G3.5, which is 2020-21 General Sole Suppliers additional to the General Manager of Operations. And we'll just get John, won't be a second. Can we go on for time? Thanks, John. Over to you for G3.5, Sole Supplier Additional.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and good morning, councillors. This item's for to enter into service provider agreements for sole suppliers for 4 companies. All those companies are suppliers or original suppliers of equipment that council uses or operates. I'll take as read.
Yep, no, I think so. Questions to the General Manager, please? Councillor Churchill, are you happy to move that? Seconded by Councillor Cameron. All in favour? So carried. Sorry, Councillor Trevor, missed you there. That was easy, John.
Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thanks. Our next item on the agenda is G3.6, which is a community investment program, Ignite event out of round application for the General Manager of Community Development Events, and is Kylie's online. Over to you, Kylie. Ali, you on mute? Righto, we might. Councillors, we might move to the G3.7 and we'll come back to that item. Oh, sorry, there she is. Thank you. She's not online, she's in the room. Thanks, Kylie. We'll stay where we were. Sorry, Mark. G3.6, Community Investment Program, Ignite Event, out of round application. Thanks, Kylie.
My delay, apologies. Good morning, Mr Mayor, Councillors, CEO. Today we're bringing back an application to the Ignite investment round, which is the Harbour City BMX funding application. Councillors will note that last meeting we requested additional information, such as economic impact, more information in the budget, goals and objectives of the event, and some more information around income generation. Puffed after running.
Oh, you're right, Kylie. For a second, can I just make sure everyone online is... Ah, yeah, we're getting feedback. Thanks. Two places at once. You're doing well. You have to tell me how to do that.
Oh, sorry about that. So we did assess the applications. The panel reassessed. 5 members of the panel went through and assessed the application. Of note, the differences were a reduction in residents attending. That included half of the expected residents, 1,200 less from intrastate, and a reduction from 200 to 0 for intrastate. We did provide, the club did provide some economic impact information, which was an estimate of $179 per visitor per day. That was just general, that's a general figure from GAPDL. There is also an increase in investment from $9,100 to $10,000, so the investment request to council has increased. And the original budget had stated that there would be no profit generated from the event. The new application will generate $15,700 in profit to be channelled into future infrastructure. The panel has again assessed this application as unsuccessful with 47%, also noting that it was disappointing that additional information wasn't provided to support the application. Again, we have very solid processes and assessment criteria put in place for this particular fund, and we will invite additional out-of-round applications so long as they are completed appropriately and in line with our guidelines and criteria. I invite any questions.
Kindly questions, please. Councillor Branthwaite.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good morning, colleague. I've seen the flow-on effects that this particular event does have, and there's no doubt that I would say the numbers being reduced is because of the situation we're in at the present point in time. And I remember it coming up in the first round when it got knocked back, and then you invited it in work. Was the council working with the club to try and, because it's just such a shame that we're not, you know, it appears that only reaching 47%. And I've noted the language that's being used and that sort of thing, but it just sort of, yeah, it really disappoints me that prospects aren't looking good.
I can assure you, Councillor Branthwaite, that we don't intentionally want to not have events in our region. We really like the diversity of events. I would really encourage the club to be able to put an application in place that did meet the criteria so that we can assess it. That will also give us confidence that the event will be run to the standard that it needs to be run as well. I agree. I think it's a great event for our region.
Yeah, it's just, yeah, because we've got a really good clubmanship in within the club. You know, I've worked with them before in the previous role, and also the prospects of flow-on effects down the track, especially with possible Olympic training, and also and you know, yeah, it's just such a shame, you know.
Councillor Branthwaite, we did provide them all feedback from this meeting. The Community Investment Officer spoke to the President of the BMX Club, so we've provided everything that we possibly can to the club. The club just really needs to put the effort into the application.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I've got Councillor Trevor, then Councillor Muscat, and then Hanson.
Holly, I missed your commentary in relation to the number of visitors as a result of this event. That's been reduced, I think you said, from 1,800 to?
So the notes that I had provided was they've reduced the residents attending, which was half of the expected residents, 1,200 less from interstate, and a reduction from 200 to 0 for intrastate.
So in total, how many people are coming from outside the Gladstone region?
I'll get that number for you.
I've just got the figures on the screen there that were in the report.
Oh, sorry.
Is that,
Thank you.
That's right? Yeah.
Yeah. So 1,800. That's a reduction from 2,400.
So we've got a reduction of 2,400 to 1,800 people visiting our region, who no doubt will be major supporters of our local businesses, including our accommodation providers and our small businesses who are significantly impacted by COVID at the current time. And in addition to that, Council has invested a significant amount of money recently to upgrade the track to enable it to hold state and national titles. And if this funding was to assist in this event proceeding, there is an opportunity for Gladstone to secure a 2021 State BMX Championship, which would involve, I would expect, a significant number in excess of 1,800 visitors attending this event. My question is, how many opportunities were the club provided with to sit with council and properly ventilate and prepare an application that would be suitable to council's requirements to approve a small investment of $10,000 in comparison to the significant investment that this event would create for our small businesses and our region?
Like I said before, Councillor Trevor, we don't purposely discount events in our region. However, we do have guidelines and criteria that council did accept as part of the community investment program, and we did follow the process that was approved by council. With respect to the local businesses, within the proposal, there are, I think there's about 5 or 6 local businesses that they'll be engaging. So that's great, but I'd like to see that increased. As far as education, we do have our community investment road shows, and we also provided the community investment toolkit, which steps out step by step the process for applications. We also did give the club significant feedback on how they could improve their application.
This is a significant opportunity for Gladstone region residents, not only to showcase our region, but also to support small business in a difficult period. I'm wondering how much time can be additionally invested in this project to make it happen. And is it possible for council to meet with the proponents of this proposal prior to a final decision being made by this council, with a view to assisting them in satisfying the requirements of council's framework to enable us to consider approval or non-approval of this project?
I'm happy for our community investment officer to meet with the club. However, I just caution that we shouldn't be assisting to write these applications. That's really the job of the club. However, we can provide support and assistance on how to do the application, which we have already provided in the past. However, I will welcome a meeting between the club and the investment officers to support them to make the additional information available.
Kylie, my experience with sporting groups and organisations is that including supporting their applications at a different level of government in the past has always been that some proponents really struggle with the need to get the important matters on paper. Orally, they can tell you with consummate ease that this or their project is going to be a significant benefit to the region. When it comes to getting it in written form, it's that much harder. There are clubs that do it really, really well, and there are clubs that don't do it necessarily so well. And I think in those latter situations, council should perhaps go the extra mile when they see an opportunity that could significantly support our community, particularly when our business operators and associated people are struggling financially with matters such as a pandemic. So my personal view is that I don't want to see this project not be supported, and I'd be keen for Council to engage in further discussions and helpful contact with a view to perhaps solidifying a proper application that this Council could consider. Just my personal view.
Thanks, Councillor Trevor. Councillor Muscat, Hanson, then good luck.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks, Kylie. And I just wanted to also thank you for the effort that you and your team has put in assisting the club. I guess not everyone will get all the feedback that this club probably have got. I work with lots of other organisations, and not everybody's gets the follow up and all the. Well, we do obviously provide feedback, but we don't always actually invite for a resubmission either. So I just wanted to note that it's not that I do believe that we don't go out of our way to say no to people. I also agree with Councillor Trevor about the potential of the event. I can see that. It's I would love to see the event happening too, and I'm sure it will happen. So my other point I wanted to make was that we actually I couldn't find just there, but I read it a couple of days ago, the assistance that we provided to the club in the past. So if you don't mind just reminding us how much we have invested in this club in the past.
There was a capital program that was invested. In addition, Council prepared the state submission for the Harbour City BMX to apply for the state BMX titles.
So, and we had significant financial investment in the club, in the facilities. So, as Councillor Trevor noted before, so I will think that it would be unfair for anyone to say that we don't support the club. So I feel really bad about, I guess them not qualifying, well, I guess coming over the 50% or 50.5% that they need to be successful. But I also see a number of other clubs that take feedback. They work really hard at writing their applications. They take on the advice that people give them. There are also services out there that can help them. And if we don't use the same criteria for all clubs, then there's no point having a system here. So, and I guess taking on some of the learnings that I have had from Councillor Hanson too, we have a process, and we can't just use a process for some clubs and not others. So that's where I'm coming from. I want this event to happen. I fully support this club. We have done it in the past, and I'm sure we will continue to do it. But if the club can't address the criteria of the funding application when it's obviously so valuable and it does go with the criteria, why can't not they put it in the application? So I'm just, it's hard, but I just can't use a process for one club and not for another. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Muscat. Like I said before, we don't intend to not support any of the events if they meet the criteria, and this does have merit. We just need the effort to be put into the application. The BMX Club has also engaged a grant writer to write that application, both applications, just so you were aware of that.
Wow. Okay. Okay, thank you, Councillor Hanson.
Yeah, similar views to, thanks, Councillor Muscat. regarding process, but two questions. You said they can apply again for an out-of-round application and still meet that December deadline?
I'm happy to facilitate that, Councillor.
Okay.
I really, like I said, I think the event has merit.
I think that's more than generous. And explain the $15,000 profit. I just didn't understand that.
Neither did I. So the original budget recorded no income, no profit whatsoever, and now this particular budget provided has a profit of $15,700 with an increased request in investment from $9,100 to $10,000 from council.
So we don't really know what that is. I suppose every organisation is entitled to how much money they want to spend, how much money they want to keep for investment, and I can't question that. That's their business. Yeah, we haven't got any really insight into that, so
no,
probably shouldn't go there.
Councillor, good luck. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think I'm sure everyone supports the event. I'm probably torn between two views because, like Councillor Trevor, I understand that this will be a great benefit to our region. But I think it's important from a council perspective that we have a level playing field in the community. And the way we've tried to establish that level playing field is by implementing these processes, the criteria, the grant application processes. And in one respect, I want to support this event and this club, but in other respects, I know that there's, you couldn't count how many other clubs and organisations out in our community that work tirelessly every single day and put in the hard yards for applications exactly like this. I know there was a number of councillors attended the opening of the Calliope Multisports Complex on Saturday. I attended the opening of the Curtis Coast Dolphins netball courts on Sunday, and all of these clubs are, just endless amount of hours and effort and time put into grant applications. And even in my own committees, I'm sure every councillor sits on committees where, with Under the Trees, we make these applications, and there is a phenomenal amount of time and effort put into making sure that you get the right thing done. So in that respect, that's where I sort of look at if you don't apply that level playing field across the board, what sort of message are you sending to all those other committees? I do note in the investment toolkit that we provided to the club, I did go through it, and it does point out, it has some good resources in there which point out where the club can find assistance. Given that there is still a number of months between now and December, I'd like to put forward that, we give the club another opportunity. Perhaps, I'm sure they could talk to not only our community investment officer, but even councillors around the table. If the club's watching and listening, I'd certainly be happy to provide advice. I know there's a number of other councillors around the table that have had extensive experience in this particular type of work. But I do think, I probably walked in here with a different view, but I do think that in fairness to the entire region and every other group and every other organisation that's out there that's working tirelessly and the amount of volunteer hours in our community that go into writing applications like this. It may well just be that the club perhaps doesn't have a full comprehension of how to word things and how to make things look, fit the criteria of those applications. So obviously they've engaged a grant writer. Perhaps we need to get some other expertise involved, but I probably can't support the application on that basis. But I would like to give the club another opportunity because I do think the event would be great for our region. I'd love to showcase the facility. I know it's a new facility, and bring all the people into our region. I did have one question though about the event. With the number of attendees, it'd be a Category 2 event, and I know, excuse me, through my own looking at trying to run a Category 2 event under the COVID framework is absolutely phenomenal and onerous conditions on any event organiser. And I just question, if we're going to sponsor an event like that, we would obviously want to be making sure that, number one, that the relevant COVID safe management plan is in place, and number two, that the event organisers are going to manage that appropriately. And do we know if that's the case for this particular event?
So we've received the standard BMX COVID safe plan. We haven't received an event-specific COVID safe plan. We would write that into the agreement for funding. And in those specific COVID management plans, I'm not sure if there's an industry framework under that particular event. If not, it requires that event-specific plan, which has to be approved by Queensland Health, is my understanding. If it wasn't approved, what happens to the funding? It just stays with council? So in our agreements, we do have the COVID clause in there that protects council's funding, so they will return the funding.
Okay, and are you aware, my understanding is that there's up to 2 or 3 months wait to get a COVID plan approved from Queensland Health. Perhaps it can be done quicker. We're probably cutting it a lot finer then in that respect than we might have initially thought.
We are struggling to get events through from a COVID. Anything over 500 is proving very difficult to receive COVID safe plans. I would hope that the club could reach out to other BMX clubs that may have already implemented COVID safe plans for their events, for their specific events, so that we could maybe speed the process up if it was approved.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Churchill and Councillor O'Grady.
Yeah, thanks for that, Mehmet. Look, I think most of the things have been said anyway. I just wanted to reiterate something that I'd indicated previously, is ensuring that our community investment officers, who are very, very proactive, have seen it firsthand with what they try to do, is that at the end of the day, that they're not actually all but filling out the application form, because it places them in a very awkward and compromising position, because you can't be doing the information and putting the information in. The other part of it is we can't have our officers going to them telling them you must say this and you must say that. I see an extreme danger for our officers being involved in that. That's why there's a process in it. But I support the project, and I believe that this council needs to support the project in every way possible. But I wanted to just make a brief comment, is that I see this with the RADF model, and that perhaps there might be some learnings from the RADF model that we have, because the Gladstone Region RADF model, admittedly it's a partnership with the state government, but it is a process, and it's an assessment process, and we've had a 100% success rate. But with those that are perhaps not eligible, they don't actually find their way back to the elected members table. They go back through a further round of assessment and a further round of development. So perhaps there might be some learnings between what we do with the RADF assessment process and the great work that gets done in our community investment.
Thank you, Councillor Churchill, and I think that's a great idea. The mentoring program that RADF has really does support success, so that's something that I'd really like to look into. So thanks for the suggestion.
So Councillor O'Grady, then I'll come back to Councillor Goodluck and Councillor Branthwaite as well. Councillor Cameron, did you want to speak after Councillor O'Grady first? Thank you, Councillor O'Grady.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I agree with what Chris was saying, or Councillor Trevor was saying. Now, another few things that I just wanted to add. It says 5 or 6 businesses. That would be only on site, I would imagine. So, you know, there's going to be people in coffee shops in town having breakfast, lunch and dinner as well. So, and also to Councillor Goodluck's point about COVID, once a child or adult actually races, I'm thinking they would be removed out of that, and they'll be set up down outside the grounds, for the reason being, you know, you go and watch them ride or watch that event, so, and then move outside So there's not that many people within the compound, the ground, actually the BMX grounds. So, because people come and go, like from their vehicles, because not everybody will be able to, I don't believe, fit in there at one time. But, you know, you don't sort of go and watch somebody else's race. You've done, you know, they do their race, then all the family comes back out to their van or bus or whatever else. So, but in my calculation, even if it was half the amount of people that seeked accommodation, so it'd be about $800,000 for accommodation in our community for just $10,000 3 days of, which is, you know, $3,300 really, is all what council would have to put out. So, and it was over $300,000 that council actually spent of Works for Queensland money that actually helped facilitate and build the BMX track. So it'd be fantastic to see it utilised for the events that are coming up. So I fully support this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor
Oh,
Cameron.
not project, sorry, event.
Sorry. Yeah, I know what you mean. I've got other councillors want to come back, but Councillor Cameron hasn't spoken yet, so I'll go there.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Look, I am on the same page with Councillor Trevor on this one. It's not so much this event that's important that we all want to see it up, but I think it's future events that it can evolve from it. I think that's important. So I'm very much in favour of seeing if we can give these the BMX Club another chance at this. I don't know how we go about pointing out their shortfalls and how they get this thing up, but I was really surprised at such a low weighting on this event. I haven't had much to do with the BMX Club except watching my little 3-year-old grandson on the mini wheelers race, and it is a great family-oriented, great project. And I think it's been advised to me that outside of Brisbane, the Gladstone track is probably one of the best. So why that didn't weight higher, I don't know. But certainly I'm in favour of giving these people another go. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Cameron. We haven't provided the application on the actual report. I can make that available to councillors if that's of interest. I agree with you. I think this event would be fantastic for Gladstone if it can be run in the right ways. We just encourage, it just needs a little bit more effort in the application so that it meets our criteria and guidelines.
Thank you. Sorry, I've got Councillor Branthwaite. Good luck then, Trevor, and then we might see if we can get a motion.
Okay, yeah, mine sort of surrounds the motion. If we accepted this motion, would that actually rule them out of be able to resubmit? Because my thinking would be was to knock back this motion and then allow them to resubmit. But I think if you accepted the motion that's put in front of us, you know, you probably that's the end of the day. Tanya?
Sorry, if I could speak to that, I would recommend that if you do want it to come back, that there should be provision in the resolution for that.
Hearing different views around the table, I've got Councillor Goodluck who would like to speak and Councillor Trevor. I think I might add something. If the council would like to give them another go, I think we could delegate authority to the CEO or the General Manager. I don't think we need to keep bringing back to the boardroom one event. I absolutely support this event too, and probably would technically almost want to put my hand up for it today to give them the money, because the fact that we did put that money in Works for Queensland, and the idea of putting that funds in there at Works for Queensland is so they could have this exact event, actually, this exact event. So, because this event brings the 2021 state championships, and that's the event we want. I can think Crystal Cranfield and others. We have had world champion, not just Australian champions, but world champion BMXs out of Gladstone. So I want to support them, but I certainly see what everyone else is saying. So excuse that. Maybe they need to meet the criteria. Perhaps an alternative grant writer. Not criticising their current grant writer, but obviously this has come in twice now, and I don't think it needs to come back to the boardroom. I think it needs to be decided at officer level. But Councillor Goodluck and then Councillor Trevor.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I just would suggest that the club might need to get their COVID safe plan approved probably before anything else. I have just had a quick Google. There seems to be some other events happening, but I know that anything over 500 people, you step into what's called a Category 2 event, and the conditions are phenomenally onerous. And I'd be surprised, to be honest. I don't know, the ins and outs of the BMX club, but for clubs that I'm associated with that are looking at running events and run events regularly, we can't do it. So if the BMX club can do it, all credit to them, and I wish them every success. But it has to be approved by Queensland Health. Is Queensland Health going to approve 1,800 participants travelling into Gladstone from every stretch of Queensland? I don't know. That maybe they will, maybe they won't, but certainly that needs to be investigated at least at the same time as the application for funding. Thank you.
Councillor Trevor and then Councillor O'Grady, and we'll look for a mover for a motion.
Thank you, Mayor. As foreshadowed in my original discussion, I move that the recommendation be deferred to allow the club the opportunity to reapply for funding, and that the CEO be delegated the authority to make any future decision in relation to the application.
Thanks. Councillor, seconder for that? Second, Councillor Hanson. Now throw back to
Second that,
Councillor.
Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Second, Councillor Hanson. Back to Councillor O'Grady to comment.
My biggest concern is they may not have enough time, so I think they would not run this event if they didn't get support from the council. And does that give them enough time? And I think the Queensland Country Championships actually, they have people from out of Gladstone to help run the event as well, so they just don't run that by themselves.
Well, by delegating authority to the CEO actually speeds the process up, so because otherwise they have to wait for a general council meeting to come back. So, sorry.
Exactly right now, Matt, because they could actually fill the application out, complete it, etc., and decision made by next week.
It doesn't mean that if we don't support, I mean, we support this event. This is not what, I like to use the right word in here, because I think we are supporting the event. So what we can't do is allocate financial resources because it doesn't meet the criteria of the process. So we support this event. I'm sure we will do everything we can in our power to support it, in, whether it is financially or not financially. At this time, it's not financially. If the club can run the event because they don't get the $10,000 they're asking us, well, that's not the whole cost of the event. There's a number of other avenues that clubs and organisations can follow to get additional funding. They could also review their budget. They can, I put my hand up to come out and help them try to find other ways too. So I just don't want, I feel really uncomfortable with, placing the blame on us. If we don't support them financially, then the event doesn't happen, because that is not the case. So this is someone else's event. They're trying to get financial support from us. They don't meet the requirement that is needed through the process, but there is any other, we will do what we can to help them in other ways. So just wanted to get the wording right, because it's not, we want the same things that they want, but we can't have a process for one organisation or a club and a different one for another. So
true, I agree, but I think in particular when you invest $300,000 of ratepayer money into an event, so that into a club, to enhance their facility to attract the very events that they're applying for, that sometimes you need to make those kind of exemptions to say your application was not very good, and it wasn't very good twice. But what we're doing here now is, with Councillor Trevor's motion, which is moved and seconded, and I'm going to put the motion very shortly, is giving them a last chance to get it right and leaving it up to the discretion of the CEO to make that call, whether they meet the criteria. And if they do, then we can support an event with funding. And I hear what you're saying, we're going to support the event regardless. I'll be supporting the event whether we fund it or not. But,
can I get a point of clarification of Councillor Trevor's resolution? I didn't hear anything in his resolution that effectively says if we don't support it, the event's not going to happen. That's not what I'm reading or understanding. So perhaps if I could just see the wording or hear the wording of that resolution again, because I didn't hear anything in there saying that this is a showstopper. Quite the contrary, is that it strengthens the support for the project.
Yes, the motion, Councillor Churchill, was that I move that the recommendation be deferred to allow the club the opportunity to reapply for funding, and that the CEO be delegated the authority to make any future decision in relation to the application.
Thank
Whether
you,
the matter
Councillor
proceeds
Trevor.
or not, depending on the outcome of that, is a matter for the club.
I still second that motion.
Thank you, Tanya.
Sorry, I'd just like to add that I believe that the decision you're making may be inconsistent with the usual policy or approach towards these sort of things. And under the legislation, we're required to state a reason for making that decision. So it's okay to make that decision, but just a reason. So if we could include that as part of the resolution, that would be great.
Can I help with the reason then? Councillors invested significant funding into the upgrade of this facility. Sorry for your wording. Is a meeting being recorded? Obviously it's live stream, so we ought to come back to it. That councillors invested significant funding into the upgrade of this facility in order to host major events, and these two events that the club is applying for are two of the events that council seeks to have in our community as a result of that significant funding upgrade. Something along those words would be what I'm thinking. Councillor Trevor, is that what you're thinking?
Perfectly correct, Mayor.
Councillor Goodluck?
Mr Mayor, I'm probably happy to support the motion, but I'll just note that council invests considerable funding in just about every facility right across the region, and it's probably always in the name of attracting visitors and hosting major events. I'd personally be happy for the club just to have another crack and resubmit in the usual process, and you know, it can come back and we can consider it again. I'm not going to lose sleep over this motion. I'll support it if that's the way council wants to go, but I think all the club needs is another opportunity to make sure that they can conform with the processes that every other club in the region has to conform with.
100% agree. It's just our manager of governance said we needed a reason. So the other reason could be, if you like, because we would like them to have another go. You can have whatever reason you like.
Because I don't, I hear your reason, but I don't think that's actually helping because...
you provide an alternative reason?
Yeah, well, that because of the circumstances in which we are at the moment and the low, I guess, well, the potential of this event and economic benefits of this event, then we would like to give them another opportunity. Because I guess just saying that we've already invested $300,000 in the truck, to me, that's actually a reason why we should actually be happy with our investment and then let the club go forward without not that much support. And not many other clubs get that kind of support. So I would like to maybe just leave that aside, and then just the fact that that presents significant economic opportunities for the region. So that's why we want to give them another go.
Happy with that, Councillor Trevor?
Happy with that, Mayor.
Could I please
Carly,
just
yes,
add
please.
something? Sorry. This event, through the application, should be able to be conducted regardless of council's investment. The income in the actual, the income coming in is $22,000. That leaves them $5,700 in profit. If council adds to that, they will have $10,500 in profit from the event. So the event can still proceed without council's funding, as per the application.
Thank you. All right, I think it's time to put the motion now. I think everybody around the room wants to support the event. We also want to support the guidelines, and we want a level playing field. This is a recommendation put by Councillor Trevor. It's seconded by Councillor Hanson, that it be deferred to allow the club the opportunity to reapply for funding and delegate to the CEO to make a decision due to this significant economic benefit to the event and the community, I guess. Thank you. It's moved Councillor Trevor, seconded Councillor Hanson. All in favour? Motion is carried. Thank you, councillors. We have a couple left in open, council. I'd like to get through them before morning tea, please. The next item is G3.7, and thank you, Kylie, for that. G3.7, which is Audit, Risk and Improvement Committee. General Manager of Finance, Governance and Risk. Back to you, Mark.
Mayor, my apologies for the late notice, but the decision to be made by Council today is to receive the minutes of the Audit, Risk and Improvement Committee meeting, which is fine. I just flagged the possibility that if there is any discussion, not that I wish to gag debate, please don't read me wrong here, but if there's any discussion in relation to item 12.2 in the minutes, risk management quarterly update, I have the usual conflict in relation to my legal firm potentially acting for injured plaintiffs, and in those circumstances, if there is discussion, I will seek leave of the chamber to leave the room.
No worries. Back to you, Mark, and we'll see if there's conversation on that item.
Thank you, Mr Mayor and Councillors. Yeah, this report is just the presentation of the minutes from the Audit, Risk and Improvement Committee that was held on the 24th of June. So you'll note from within that paper some items that were discussed of significance, particularly in and around review of the Business Improvement Committee policy, which has been through a out-of-session review and feedback from the Audit, Risk and Improvement Committee, as well as being the Risk Management Corporate Standard, which was just a out-of-session, just general feedback from that group on the proposed framework and corporate standard that Council had adopted at its last Council meeting. So they're the significant items as part of that. Also, since the last meeting, the Audit, Risk and Improvement Committee has reviewed the draft financial statements for the year and which are subject to audit currently.
Councillor Trevor.
Sorry, Mayor, I didn't intend to mislead. It's item 12.4, not 12.2, health, safety and wellbeing.
Any questions for the General Manager, please? Councillor Goodluck.
No questions. Thanks, Mark and Tanya. I'd just like to acknowledge the efforts of the ARIC committee and the members of the committee. I know Councillor O'Grady and myself, being members, have been involved in a number of meetings recently, and the recommendations around the financial statements. I think that those independent committee members are providing some valuable contributions, certainly, which are assisting us as an organisation to progress. So happy to move that we adopt those minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanya.
Sorry, just for the record, I just wanted to clarify that in the minutes it includes a statement that Councillor O'Grady raised a material personal interest. She did not declare a material personal interest. It was just a conflict of interest. That will be dealt with when these minutes go to ARIC for adoption at the next meeting on the 30th of September. So just declaring that for the record.
So move Councillor Goodluck, second to Councillor Hanson.
No, I just want to make a
conversation.
Comment. I will second it though. I agree with Councillor Goodluck that this group is very much essential for the organisation and is doing a great job. The item regarding outstanding audit actions, that's been there for some time. I just think that we should be, I don't know how you're handling that now. Have we got enough audit? Have we got enough staff in audit to handle the backlog that we've got? So
the outstanding audit actions piece is a standing item for the committee to consider both the items that have been identified for improvement, but also just tracking the improvement of those. So there has been a delay in the completion of some of those items, but I'm pleased to say that particularly over the last couple of months, there's been an improvement in the completion of those items.
Thank you.
With respect to the staffing in that space, we do have a contractor on leading that team at the moment, whilst our current ethics, integrity and audit specialist is on leave.
Thank you, Mark. Happy to second.
Thank you. Any other conversations, debate, questions? No. Put the motion. All in favour? Thank you. It is carried. We have one item left in open business, I believe, which is notice of motion by Councillor Goodluck. Notice of motion positioning the Gladstone region as a powerhouse for manufacturing in the post-COVID economy. Thank you, Councillor Goodluck.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and thank you, Council, for your consideration. Some 6 or 8 weeks ago, I was invited to attend a webinar type thing Australia Institute in relation to this topic. It was quite an interesting session and some interesting speakers, and subsequently I went and read this report, and that's why I thought it was probably uniquely relevant to our region, given our industrial and manufacturing sectors and the strength of those sectors in our region. So that's why I thought I would submit this report for consideration to Council today. I found that it actually challenged some of the conventional ideas around manufacturing. Certainly some of the points that were raised throughout the report were quite interesting. It's my view that we are uniquely positioned as an already established powerhouse of industry and manufacturing to play an integral role in shaping the future of manufacturing in this country. And I believe that as community leaders, it's critical that we play an active role in having the conversation with our community, with other levels of government, with industry and other bodies about what we want our region's future to look like and the sort of opportunities we want to be available to our people. So I won't, certainly not going to read the whole report. The full report, I think, is an 81-page document. The link's in the report there that everyone can read if they choose to. But just a couple of the key points that I sort of found very interesting was the fact that, and it probably comes as no surprise to a lot of people in our community, you may have had similar conversations, but Australia actually ranks last in manufacturing self-sufficiency among all of the OECD countries. So as a measure of, we use $565 billion worth of manufactures each year, and we only produce $380 billion. It's a self-sufficiency rating, of 68%, which is the lowest in all of OECD countries. And when you talk to anyone out there, it doesn't really matter where they are. I think the idea that Australia and particularly Gladstone should be a country and a region that makes things is really universal. It doesn't matter who you are, where you live, what your politics are. Everyone, I think, agrees on that principle. And particularly given the global health pandemic that we've just seen across the globe, and the impacts that it's had, Australia was in the position and has pointed out through this document quite comprehensively the threats and challenges that we faced, even in regards to basic medical equipment, PPE for our nurses and doctors. A lot of the supply chains were disrupted, where we got a lot of that medical equipment from places like China, the US, India, and all of a sudden, that was a serious threat. So through I suppose, a good management and probably a touch of luck, we've managed to avoid critical shortages in those items. But it certainly should be an eye-opener to every level of government and to our community in general that, it is important that we have a strong manufacturing sector in our country, and that it's not just about economics, it's actually about the well-being of our people. And the report goes on, one thing in particular that I found quite good is that manufacturing, it's the most innovative, intensive sector in the world. No country can be a leader in innovation if you don't have a thriving manufacturing sector. And it also provides, in general, good, stable, secure, and often more high-paying jobs. So as far as the opportunities that are available to people, I think it's something that we should look to certainly play an active role in making sure that we've got a strong manufacturing sector moving forward. So the report does outline some action plans. There's a 6-point action plan within the report. It goes into much more detail in the main report, and then even principles about modern industry policy. So the reason that I submit this report to consideration for Council today, the motion reads that we note the report from the Australia Institute, A Fair Share for Australian Manufacturing, Manufacturing Renewal for the Post-COVID Economy, and then point 2, facilitate a Gladstone Leaders Group roundtable of stakeholders to discuss the findings of the report and identify policy and or advocacy gaps and opportunities for our region. and endorse the Mayor to invite those key stakeholders. So, member for Gladstone, Glenn Butcher, the Minister for Regional Development and Manufacturing would be a great one. The port, industry bodies, trade unions and other key stakeholders that can come together, discuss what the findings of this report are, and perhaps develop some sort of advocacy plan so that we can have, I think, a united voice, at least in Gladstone and perhaps abroad, about where we think we need to go in future. So that's my intent. I'm certainly happy to hear everyone's views. I'll throw it over to you. Thank you.
Councillor Trevor.
Thank you, Mayor. I think the Deputy Mayor's intentions are good in relation to this proposed notice of motion, and I think his notice of motion is to be commended. I hesitate in relation to number 3. I think it probably needs some verbiage tidy up, given that we have a state election coming up next month. And whilst all expectations are that the member for Gladstone, Glenn Butcher, will be returned, I'm not entirely sure that he will still be the Minister for Regional Development and Manufacturing. So perhaps the suggestion would be that we invite the member for Gladstone, Glenn Butcher, and the Minister for Regional Development and Manufacturing. Of course, presently he is both, but if he is not a minister after the next election, then we've covered that by insertion of the word "and" the Minister for Regional Development and Manufacturing. I'd like to see the inclusion of our local federal member Ken O'Dowd, and I'd also like to see the inclusion of our Federal Resources Minister Keith Pitt, the member for Bundaberg, so that we can send a clear and unequivocal message to our community that this is a partisan approach to enhancing the future of the Gladstone region, and in particular Gladstone as a manufacturing hub. Those are my initial thoughts. Obviously, one of the biggest roadblocks to manufacturing in Australia is our energy prices, and one of the things that really bug me in Gladstone is that we have some of the largest LNG plants in the world, 1 kilometre off Gladstone, and we still can't get cheap, reliable power supply in Gladstone for our manufacturing industry to develop further our manufacturing hub. Now, I was going to suggest today that we propose, as part of the Deputy Mayor's notice of motion, that we approach, as a local council, the federal government to perhaps consider subsidising the cost of gas in Gladstone so we can develop an energy hub here as part of the COVID recovery. But my heart was warmed this morning at dawn when I was flicking through the Courier Mail latest announcements, and I took the opportunity to go and purchase one this morning because on the front page of the Gladstone Observer, I'll withdraw that, there is no Gladstone Observer anymore. On the front page of the Courier Mail, I think there is an important announcement for Gladstone, and in particular runs in sync with the Deputy Mayor's notice of motion today, and that is gas plan for state. And I'll read it because I think it's important. I don't think it needs to be read into the record, but it's important for those who are listening out there, and it's important for other councillors who haven't had the opportunity to read the Courier Mail this morning. And the front page is, Queensland will be central to the Morrison government's gas-led recovery plan aimed at keeping power prices lower and supporting manufacturing jobs, which is exactly what the Deputy Mayor seeks by way of his notice of motion today. Prime Minister Scott Morrison will today announce plans to open up 3 new gas fields and create an Australian gas hub in Western Queensland, which will link up the nation's LNG supplies through the state. Queensland will be central to the Morrison government's gas-led recovery plan aimed at keeping power prices lower and supporting manufacturing jobs. In his first major pre-budget speech, Prime Minister Scott Morrison will today announce plans to open up more gas fields across the country and create an Australian gas hub to be based in Western Queensland, which will link up the nation's LNG supplies through the state. Mr Morrison will say boosting the gas supply will drop prices, put downward pressure on whole electricity prices, help shore up renewable energy and support manufacturing in Australia. Our competitive advantage has always been based on affordable, reliable energy, he will say in a speech to industry in Newcastle. As we turn to our economic recovery from COVID-19, affordable gas will play a central role in re-establishing the strong economy we need for jobs, growth, funding, government services and opportunities for all. There will be $28 million announced for developing strategic blueprints to further open up 5 gas fields across the country, including North Bowen, Galilee and Cooper Basins in Queensland. The government will investigate turning the Wallumbilla gas field into the Australian Gas Hub, a central hub linking gas fields and export ports across the country through pipelines, bringing down the cost of production. Mr Morrison said the hub would keep Australia competitive in the global gas markets. There is no modelling yet on the impact on power prices or how much gas would be made available through opening up the basins, as much more research is required. A national gas infrastructure plan will be developed and updated every 2 years to find gaps in the gas market and what investment needs to be made in pipelines and related infrastructure. It is intended for the private sector to deliver those investments, but the government would offer incentives such as streamlined approval if needed. Resources Minister Keith Pitt said the plans would provide cheaper gas to the manufacturing sector, which employs about 225,000 Australians in parts of the industry reliant on gas. Developing Australia's untapped gas resources will help to deliver more affordable and more sustainable gas supplies that supports households and businesses, Mr Pitt said. LNG exports from Queensland are a $15 billion a year industry. That's a great announcement, and as I say, it runs in sync with the Deputy Mayor's notice of motion today to call together the Brains Trust in our region to secure our future as an energy hub, and his announcement fits like a glove with the notice of motion that the Deputy Mayor proposes today. It fits like a glove because we already have one pre-approved extra train on Curtis Island and an option to approve another one with the Queensland Government. And if the Morrison Government is prepared to work with us in sync with the Deputy Mayor's notice of motion and with the LNG gas industries on Curtis Island by opening up further gas fields to our west and to our north, the prospect of creating another 4,000 to 6,000 jobs in Gladstone alone becomes very, very real. So thank you, Deputy Mayor. Your timing is completely and utterly perfect. You run in complete sync with our Prime Minister today. We work hand in hand with the federal government and the state government with a view to securing cheaper, reliable power in the Gladstone region and supporting our manufacturing jobs, including the LNG industry on Curtis Island, which could create very quickly an extra 4,000 to 6,000 jobs in our community post-COVID with the additional supplies of gas to that industry. So thank you, Deputy Mayor. It's a great notice of motion. Subject to those amendments, I support it wholeheartedly. Having been involved in the gas industry in a different capacity between 2007 and 2010, I think all the planets are lining up for a bright future for this region.
Yeah. Happy with those amendments?
Yeah, certainly happy to include any and all. I sort of tried to leave dot point 3 open-ended with other key stakeholders without mentioning, but absolutely Councillor Trevor's correct, and we should be working with with every level of government and all key stakeholders, definitely.
Okay, any further comments, councillors?
Sorry, can I just note that the attachment is actually a different report it's the same report essentially, but with a different worded motion. Sorry, if we can just update for the minutes, please. Thank you. The report itself is essentially exactly the same. Yep. Thank you.
Okay, so it's amended. So moved, Councillor Goodluck as amended. Councillor Trevor, do you want to second that?
Happy to second it, Mayor.
Perfect. No further discussion or debate. I put the motion. All in favour? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you, Councillor Goodluck, for that notice of motion. We have no deputations. Councillor reports. No councillor reports. Before we go close for, or not close, go into confidential and break for morning tea at the same time, I'd like to add a councillor report, which I didn't put in my opening statement, which I should have, because it only just happened on Saturday, and that was the official opening of the Calliope Multipurpose Sports Centre. It wasn't until the Deputy Mayor reminded me that it was a very big weekend in Agnes in the morning and Calliope in the afternoon, and Boyne Valley the day before. It is a fantastic facility for the Calliope community, and not just for the Calliope community. I know there's sporting clubs in Gladstone that are looking to host some events out there as well, but such an amazing facility. And while I was there on Saturday, we did mention a few people, but I want to mention them again for the minutes. I want to particularly mention Stewie Claridge for his work, basically almost project managing the facility. Just did a fantastic job bringing everybody together. The many businesses involved in putting their, supporting the project. It doesn't happen until you have partnerships. And I'll talk about some of the partnerships just quickly, but Nick Williams from Williams Greater Hire basically provided all of his machinery for nothing more than the cost of the diesel. That needs to be acknowledged in our minutes. There's plenty of people like Nick out there who do fantastic work, so thank you. Former Councillor Peter Masters for his tireless work in the background. Obviously did a sterling job as the MC on the day as well, but to Pete and of course to the Calliope Roosters Committee, to past and present members of the committee, they did an outstanding job bringing this together. I also want to acknowledge the Queensland Government for their works for Queensland, so to Glenn Butcher, and of course to our state member, obviously not in government, but certainly was there supporting it, the state member for Callide, Colin Boyce. Thank you for being there, Col. And to the Bendigo Bank. So this is the partnership I'm talking about. It's the state government, it's council, it's the Bendigo, the Calliope Community Bank. It's the businesses coming together, it's the community representatives giving up their time, and this is the kind of project you get. And you get a project like that when you've also got great builders in Gladstone region, and Better One Building with Grant Taylor and Steve Bennett did a fantastic job. And I'll just wrap it up by saying you won't get a better one anywhere. That is an amazing facility, and those guys we need to take our hats off to them for what they've done and what they've contributed. So thank you to everyone involved. And I think Councillor Grady was wanting to add something.
I was just saying, why would you want to live anywhere else?
Yeah. Well, we'll break for morning tea, and then we'll also have to move into confidential. So I might get a mover for confidential now. Move Councillor Churchill, seconded Councillor Muscat. We're going to move into confidential and move back shortly. Thank you. All in favour, sorry. Carried. Thanks, councillors, and welcome back to those viewing on the live stream. We have some confidential items. So item G 8.1 is Boyne Island Wastewater Treatment Plant Pump Station. Do I have a mover for the officer's recommendation? Thank you, Councillor Goodluck. Seconded, Councillor Hanson. That the officer's recommendation be adopted? Yes, all in favour? That's carried. Item G 8.2 is the tender for 148/20 sewer pump station AO6 refurbishment. Move Councillor Cameron for the officer's recommendation, seconded Councillor O'Grady. That the officer's recommendation be adopted. All in favour? That is carried. G 8.3 is PSA biosolids removal, reuse and dewatering activities. Have a councillor to move an item option, please. Councillor Branthwaite, seconded by Councillor Hanson. That the officer's recommendation be adopted. Is that correct? Yep. All in favour? That is carried as well. And the final item on the agenda is G 8.4, which is our mowing and slashing contract extensions. Move Councillor Churchill, seconded Councillor Cameron, that the officer's recommendation be adopted, and it's on the screen. All in favour, and that is carried. Thank you, councillors. There's no further items. I declare the meeting closed at 11:40 a.m.
Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council